Hello, welcome back to Ruben Tech. Today we're going to be talking about quantum hype. And as you know, I love all things quantum mechanical. However, there has been a tremendous amount of hype. Now, Sabine Hasselfelder released an excellent video on this today. She beat me to the punch. I saw this last week and I was like, oh my God, I got to speak about this. And what is this? Well, it's IonQ up here in upper left, QBTS, which is D-Wave down here, and RGTI, Rigetti. These are three quantum computing companies, and they have went on a tear, absolutely a tear, especially since Willow was announced. Now, not IonQ, but these two. And I mean, I guess this is where I'm still really naive with the markets and why I'm not a financial advisor. And you should not take anything I say to be financial advice. But Google announced Willow, and they all benefited, these other companies. And you can see, like over here, Rigetti went from 122 to almost, at one point $12, 10x, right? And a month, which is insanity. Okay, absolutely insanity. Now, I'm going to tell you why it's insanity, okay? In the bottom left, right, which you can't see is Google. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I will move. Look at that. That's Google. And Google's been doing nice for a multi-trillion-dollar company that's highly undervalued. But they're the one that released Willow. They're the one that has the logical qubit. Nobody else. And they're the ones that are the clear leader in this space. Now, when I say this, I want to say something real quick. I got to give you history of Google because Google's a goody-goody and everybody hates a goody-goody. Okay? They have the blood of Sun Microsystems in them where they are like, oh, we got to do everything for research and for open source and open source, all this stuff. It's kind of like with TensorFlow. The entire modern day AI revolution was built, you could say essentially, TensorFlow was a critical building block to everything happening in AI today. And that was open source, this library and all its tools and all the learnings in 2015 or 2014 by Google. Now, if somebody want to argue with me, you might say tensors have been around forever. It's just a mathematical object, or, yes. Okay, but how Google was using them in TensorFlow, where they're taking data, three-dimensionalizing it, drawing a tensor through it, and then reducing it to, 16 bits. Now they're at 8 and 4, whatever. I'm not going to get into all that. Basically, Google moved the entire industry forward. You might say, well, that's a great thing. Well, no, it's not. If you're a Google shareholder, you would hope that they would just keep it to themselves and be the only ones that benefit off of it. They did the same thing with Bigtable, right? And when you do this, it doesn't help you because all that happens is people like Sam Altman come and say, oh, yeah, here, thanks for this. I'm going to take it and I'm going to close source it, contribute nothing back because I'm not spending one penny on open source, and I'm going to benefit off of it and compete with you. But there are some people that would argue like, hey, that pushed Google, who is the clear leader, I believe, in AI right now. But maybe they wouldn't be without Sam Altman pushing them. So it's hard to say. I just know that Amazon doesn't do that, right? Like Amazon doesn't contribute back to Android. They just take Google's product. Hey, here's Android. We're going to take it. We're not going to release anything open back. Why would we do that? We'll just take your work. We'll modify it, release our Fire tablet. Happens a lot. So hopefully I'm hoping it doesn't happen with Willow. They did release a paper on their error correction methodology. I think it was in November. I went over on this channel. I'm really hoping with the nuts and bolts of Willow, they keep that to their chest. We're talking about a $150 billion market, I think, in 2035. I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own research. But I think that was the number that was floating around my head. So this is a huge, as you know, I've said on here, it's going to be bigger than AI because I believe AGI cannot be achieved, cannot be achieved without quantum computing. Especially if Penrose is right, and it is quantum mechanical in nature, consciousness. then you're not going to have AGI without quantum computers. Simple fact. Traditional supercomputers will not be able to get there, including whatever NVIDIA offers. Will have to be a quantum chip. Okay, because that's something where quantum supremacy will definitely come into play. And so you'll hear a lot of people trying to go down in a quantum hype, but it's not. It's for real. And Sabina, even though I said she released a great video on the hype with these three companies, right? It's not trying to diminish the hype of quantum computing in general. What Google did is they clearly established quantum supremacy. I don't want to go into this whole video again. I talked about this. Okay, but when you have 10 to the 25 power, 1 followed by 25 zeros, years for a problem, and they solved it in 5 minutes, that is order of magnitude to an order of magnitude to the power of 2 bigger. That is because you're not comparing years, you're comparing 5 minutes to 10 to the power 25 years. So I think that would be 10 to the power 100, which would be 10 to the power 10 to the 2. So order of magnitude to the order of magnitude squared is a fair comparison. Okay. No computer is going to be able to reduce that space on a purely mathematical on a mathematical problem like that. Absolutely it can't. But on a real world problem that is like that cryptography or something like that, no AI will be able to reduce that space, but a quantum computer can solve it. Okay, so when I believe it will come, Google is on the roadmap to solving real world problems. But understand that the problem that they solved, the firmly established supremacy in 2019, they didn't do it because you could say AI could reduce the space of that, and theoretically supercomputers will be able to solve it then at the same speed. Okay, sure, fine. But that's not happening here. Now, to be fair, though, the problem that they solve is purely a mathematical one. It's like Bitcoin in some sense, right? Where it has no correlation in nature. Okay, there's nothing like it. It's just maths. Okay, so it's not useful. Does that make sense? But if they achieve any real world usability, it will be like a wall getting broke through. Because once you can solve like anything, you'll be able to solve a lot of things, if that makes sense. It's just kind of like a tipping point. It's going to be like a tipping point. So it's like, how many logical qubits can we string together and reduce the error on, right? Because the beauty of Google's new system is that they're able to reduce errors as they add these logical qubits. And these logical qubits are not physical qubits. There are multiple physical qubits working in conjunction, using AI to reduce the error rate, to isolate the errors. As they get more and more of these working together, there's going to be a tipping point where it's like, we can't solve anything useful. We can't solve anything useful. Boom. We can solve all kinds of things, right? And once that happens, it's going to be bigger than anything besides like the wheel and fire. It will be. I mean, it could get crazy. But none of these companies are on that path. Not IonQ, not Qubits, not Rigetti. Okay? The future is quantum, right? Quantum computing, the potential to change the world, and IonQ is leading the way. Not really. Okay. Our newest and most powerful quantum computer, what they're offering essentially is quantum computing as a service. So if I remember correctly, they are in the cloud. Yes, they're on all the clouds. Google Cloud, Azure, and Amazon. And so basically, Circ and QSKit, I believe those are IBM and Google, Azure, AWS. So they're offering quantum computing as a service. But the thing is that these are traditional quantum computers. They're not the logical qubits, and they're not utilizing the error reduction that Google has achieved, which means that they're too noisy to even come remotely close to doing anything useful, and they don't have enough qubits. So there's nothing that can be solved that's useful on these right now. D-Wave is looking at other things. They're looking at actual quantum networks, all these kind of fancy terms. There's really nothing that they have to offer to the public right now. So all three of these companies, and you could even say Google, they're all just basically research companies at this point. None of them have anything commercial that they can offer to anybody. Okay? Rigetti, right? They have a 9 qubit QPU that they're selling to you. What would you do with it? What can you solve with 9 qubits? Real world, nothing. There's nothing that you can solve with 9 qubits. Okay, you have to understand how, and I went through this, how quantum computers work. They use this thing where they can solve things in parallel due to, I forget what it's called, superposition. So the qubits go into superposition, and essentially, how do I want to say this? You can, like, if you have 10 states, you can solve them all at once. So like a traditional computer has to go, it does it step by step. Step 1, step 2, step 3. It has 10 locks. Okay, think of it like this. I'm coming up with this off the top of my head. I have 10 locks, and I want to check these 10 locks. I got to go through, and each lock takes me 1 second. So I'm going to check lock 1, check lock 2, check lock 3, check lock 4. Whatever I do, that's how a traditional computer's got to do it. I got to go 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. Okay? You might say, well, they have parallel, but I mean, we're just talking about one chip. Just understand this is the basics. Because even if they went in parallel on that, it's still not the same. Okay. So the chip goes through and checks 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. Each step by step by step. 1 second per door. 10 seconds. 10 doors. A quantum computer comes along and says, hey, I can check all 10 doors at once. In fact, I can check 1 door, 2 doors, 3 doors, 4 doors, 5 doors, or 10 doors at once. But no matter what I check, it takes 5 seconds. And so this is the difference between quantum computing, right? It's actually, in some senses, slower, if you think about it. But with its parallelism that's allowed by, superposition. I'm starting to get tired. By superposition, it is able to check more doors at once. Okay. And this is where cracking cryptography comes in, right? Because you can set up these algorithms where it can check more solutions to prime factors a lot quicker than a traditional computer, which has to go step by step. And there might be, I'm just making up a number, 10 to the 80 possibilities, right? Which is just too big of a problem space. But a quantum computer can say, hey, I can check, just again, making up something, 10 to the 3 of those, or 10 to the 5 of those at a time, right? Maybe 10 to the 10 even, if you get to a lot of qubits. But anyways, it can check a lot of them at a time. Okay, so that's the kind of the difference. So what are you going to do with the 9 qubits QPU? Nothing useful. And so this is reflected because these companies, they're just working off of government contracts right now. They're all SPACs. None of them would have went public except for that they're SPACs. And if you don't know what a SPAC is, basically a SPAC is like somebody comes in they got a company. You own D-Wave qubits. And D-Wave is not going to pass scrutiny to go public on its own. But you can't find any more investors in it because nobody wants to invest in it because it's too far off. So you got guys who invested it. They're millionaires, but they're like, we can't give you any more money. Your product's just too far off, right? But we got to get our money back. So what are we going to do? Well, you can't go public because you're not going to pass the scrutiny. So what we're going to do is we're going to release a shell company that goes public, and this is legit. This is 100% what SPACs are. But we're going to reduce the shell company. It will go legitimate. It will go public. And then it will merge with your company. And I believe DJT, Donald Trump's DJT's True Social was through a SPAC. So they're able to get these companies out that normally wouldn't be able to go public They're able to launch them, and they do it through these SPACs. And so all three of these SPACs. And so what happens? Well, all these billionaires that invested and were like, we can't put any more money in, but we got to make our money. Well, they just made their money. And so they're going to be selling, right? You might say, no, they're not selling, they're holding. No, they're selling. They know how far off this is, and they know that these companies aren't doing anything right now. You might say, well, why did they invest in them in the first place? Well, because when they came to them a few years ago, they gave them a pitch, but they're like, okay, well, hey, I'm not saying they're going to get rid of every single dollar that they have in it, but yeah, they're seeing a huge return here. They're going to take some profits for sure. But I'm sure they're like, hey, they're not dumb. They're seeing Google's doing this, not them. This isn't Rigetti doing it. This isn't IonQ. This isn't Qubits. Google did this. And Main Street Data puts us in there. Competition, strong competition from established tech giants. Yeah, Google. IBM. If anyone's a competitor at Google, it's IBM. It's not any of those three companies. Well-funded startups could erode IonQ's market share, hinders growth prospects. It doesn't have any market share. What market share does it have? It's all governmental contracts. Net income, right? What's this operating income? Tens of millions. Yeah, and look at this, 12.4 million. So I know there's like $1 billion grant coming, right? So like some of these are going to see some big increased incomes, but not to justify, $257 price a share. Like, this is absolutely insane. Qubits, look at this. This is D-Wave. Like, what? This doesn't make any sense. 251. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I want to get through this video, but I'm getting tired. Well, yeah, what are they making? Nothing. Less than $2 million. Okay. This is a 2.31. This is like Truth Social. This is almost as bad as Truth Social. $2.31 billion company. So you're wondering why some billionaire investor wants their money? Okay, well, here. They made $1.87 million last year, and they lost $20.6 million. Okay, because quantum computing is super expensive. The people that work on this are so smart, and they demand so much money. It's so cash intensive. Okay, and it's a long ways off, right? Super far. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, it doesn't even make sense. Free cash flow. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I keep yawning. Rigetti, it's got to be the same thing. Yeah, look at this. $223. Economic downturn. For the company's quantum, this is the dumbest risk. There is no demand. There's none. Intense competition from established tech. Yes, that's the real one. Same one they had. Regulatory changes. Technical difficulties. Yeah, that's a good one. Yes, attracting. Yes, this is fair. Retain highest skilled engineers. Yeah, this is fair. Yeah, what's their income? Okay, yeah, look at this. This is awesome. 2.38 million. They're okay. Their market share. What's their market share? Nothing. Okay, here's the market. 2.38 million. 1.87 million. So let's just round that to 4 million. And 12.4. 16.4. Oh, sorry, I keep yawning. I'm gonna stop. $16.4 million. That's the market right now between these three companies. And these companies, $16 million in income. This is the market. 10 billion, 2.3 billion, and 2.75 billion. Okay, so $15 billion market. And what did I say? 14 billion. Yeah. 1,000x the market. Yeah. Makes zero sense at this point. So yeah, that's just my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. Okay. Are they doing interesting stuff? Yes. We're talking about, they're looking at quantum networks, quantum computing as a service, looking at releasing quantum processors. But to be honest, my honest opinion is that quantum computing, even Google's path, is still a ways off. It's still a ways off. And these are not large companies. I mean, they're worth a lot now. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, they became worth a lot. But there could be a startup that comes out of anywhere, right? If Google open sources this, what they've done, that might be a benefit to these established players, that they could go in there and they could build upon these methodologies, like Sam Altman did with TensorFlow, like what happened with Bigtable when Google released that. But there's nothing preventing someone else from coming along and doing it. Okay. And there's nothing to say that Google and IBM aren't going to just lead the way all the way here. This is insanely capital intense. And for them, they have the money to just treat this as a project that loses. I mean, look at Waymo, right? Google is investing in Waymo for the long term. Well, I can guarantee you they're looking at quantum computing like that. That's exactly how they're looking at it. They're not ignorant to what it's worth. But these guys don't have the same benefit, okay? Because the billionaires back in these, they're not like Google. They're not worth $1 trillion, and they don't want to have nothing returned. These are investors who want to see returns, okay? Google's different. Google's a company, okay? So its idea is, hey, I got to look into new ways to innovate. So they have that division within Google where they do things like this. They call it moonshots, and they're long-term projects. Okay? And IBM's the same way. But these companies, they don't have that benefit. Okay? So I'm not trying to be down on it. I'm just saying I don't really understand this pump. Seems a little odd to me, but is what it is. I do wish them luck. I'm really interested in quantum computing. But again, none of them have Google's technology. None of them are talking about logical qubits or anything like that. Right? And right now, that looks like that is the method that works. Doesn't mean there's another method that won't come up. And maybe perhaps one of them comes up with a better method, right? But we have no evidence to support that right now, which is why I'm kind of like, wow, a 10x based on news that isn't yours? I don't know. I don't understand that kind of stuff, but that's why I'm not a financial advisor. Okay, that's all I got for you today. Have a great day.